Hi, it's Jenny here again. Last time you'll recall we actually witnessed Jesus' body being taken down from the cross and buried, not by any of the apostles, but by, of all things, two members of the Sanhedrin, secret followers, who hurriedly prepare the body before sunset on Friday when Sabbath began. And what a long, dark, sad Sabbath that must have been for them. Especially when, the rest of Judea is in feast mode. It's a very holy Sabbath. It's Passover. And then comes the second night, and maybe many of them are really unable to sleep because we know that, in fact, the women are up really early before sun is up and back at the side of the tomb. Now, John is familiar with these other gospel accounts, but what he often does, we've seen, is he filters out multiple people and events to hone in and focus on particular moments and individuals. And that's what he does here. First, he has a look at Mary, what she sees first when she arrives so early in the dark. And then we have Peter and John arrive later on. What do they notice when they look in the grave? Then we're back to Mary again. Who does she see? And finally, we see this woman being commissioned with a special message from the Lord. And the result of all of these, insights, is that we actually have one of the most moving and significant passages in the Bible, I think, because sometime before dawn, Jesus came alive. And in a surprising move, his first recorded word after his resurrection is someone's name, Mary. It's Mary Magdalene, who was first introduced in the last chapter and who is the first eyewitness of this awesome thing and the first to testify about it. Let's have a closer look at John's account of this fabulous day. So John 20 tells us, early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. Who is this Mary Magdalene? Well, she's in all four Gospels, which implies she's fairly significant, but in fact it's Luke who gives us the most helpful information. He says that when Jesus was on his mission preaching and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of God, the 12 were with him, as well as some women who'd been cured of evil spirits and infirmities. Mary, called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had gone out, and Joanna, the wife of Herod's steward Chusa, and Susanna, and many others who ministered to them out of their own resources. Mary's life was completely turned around by Jesus. 7 demons would have been an absolute misery. So how full of love and gratitude she must have been, and that's really key here. What also becomes clear is, rather like Mary of Bethany, she's a student, a disciple, or a mathetes of Jesus. Her devotion becomes obvious. John tells us she was at the cross. Matthew includes the detail that she remained close to the Lord and watched his body being laid in the tomb, and now she's one of the first back there. She's racked by grief and probably exhaustion. What would she have made of this alarming sight? Well, the answer actually comes in the next verse. So her conclusion, he's risen just as he said. No, she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, they've taken the Lord out of the tomb and we don't know where they've laid him. This is a woman who is deeply, deeply distressed. Not having the body it's really a loss upon loss, isn't it? Which I don't really get it myself, the need for that body after someone's died, but I saw it a little bit with the people in Israel wanting the bodies back of hostages. It seems to really matter, and this loss of the body has upset her terribly. Who does she instinctively turn to? Well, Peter and John, whose leadership seems to already be emerging and then becomes quite clear, I think, when we come to the book of Acts. But notice it's none of the 11 that we see here by the tomb keeping vigil. Maybe it was just too risky for them. But they are galvanized by this news. Then Peter and the other disciple set out and went towards the tomb, and they were running together. But the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down to look in and saw linen wrappings lying there, but he didn't go in. John looks in, and these little eyewitness details, I think, speak of authenticity because the writer is this witness. And it might also be John, with this information, letting us know he saw this baffling sight. He saw the wrappings left behind before Peter arrives. He knows Peter did not interfere with them. And this is not like Lazarus' resurrection or being raised to life, because they had to push the stone back and they had to unwrap him. What on earth is going here? John must have been wondering. So there's John scratching his head and his heart is racing when Simon Peter came following him and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there and the cloth that had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings but rolled up and placed by itself. Can you imagine them there looking at what's going on and trying to make sense of it? Everything looks so tidy. This wasn't grave robbers. What's happened? Who did this? Has Jesus gone back to his Father? Is he alive? Well, we know that they're looking at evidence that Jesus was raised, but do you know what? I don't think any of us know really what happened inside the tomb. We know angels were involved. The other Gospels tell us they rolled the stone away. Did they unwrap him? Did he glide out? Who wrapped the burial linen so neatly? Where did his new clothes come from? I don't know. But every possibility is absolutely wonderful and jaw-dropping. So the other disciple, that's John, who'd reached the tomb first, also went in, and he saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes. Now, some commentators think this is a really high point because it says he believed, but I don't know. In the book of John, belief has often been contingent, unreliable, gradual, or developing, and John tells us straight here he did not yet fully understand what resurrection really meant. I'm not sure what he believed, and I'm not sure what's lacking from his belief. Maybe he does think Jesus is alive and has gone back to heaven. I don't know. But I do think it's telling that the two men just go home. They seem to tell no one, least of all Mary, who might have been nearby and obviously curious. And the other Gospels actually highlight doubt at this point. No, I actually think it's what happens next is what John wants his readers to be truly amazed by. So here she is, still bereft and confused. She stood weeping outside the tomb, and as she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white, sitting where the body of Jesus had been lying, one at the head, the other at the feet. And they said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And she said to them, "They've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they've laid him." Angels. Straight up, there's a clue. Something divine and spectacular is going on. Do you remember all the activity when the Son of God was laid in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger? And now he's cast off the swaddling clothes of burial and he's burst from the tombs and the angels are busy again. But I really don't think that Mary is seeing it for what it is. It's an extraordinary supernatural sight. And I actually can't help but see there's a sort of a visual similarity with this other holy object, the Ark of the Covenant. Is this place now the Holy of Holies, where death was defeated, where heaven touches earth? I'm sure Mary doesn't see that. And the angels actually point out the incongruity of her response. She's crying when it's the most joyful moment ever. The women in my Bible study group are sure that the angels smile as they ask her. And do notice that she calls Jesus my Lord. Even though she's not seen him risen, in her mind he's dead, she still calls him Lord. She did when she spoke to the disciples, and it is a term that can just mean great respect for someone, but it also is the word that was used for God. And through the book of John, as the disciples' faith develops and grows, they increasingly call him Lord. So though he's dead, as far as Mary's concerned, he is still the Lord. He is still my Lord in her heart and her mind. Her deep relationship with Jesus, her devotion and her love are really very clear, unlike her ability to see things very well. Oh, poor Mary. Then this moment, when she said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there. But she didn't know it was Jesus. And Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" And supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you've laid him and I'll take him away." She's so bereft and perhaps even more muddled and disoriented now. She's got no idea what she's looking at, no idea that these weird things are indicators Jesus is alive. In an interesting side note, you may see there that Jesus is not in shiny, bright resurrection clothes. He's not obviously who you might think he is. He's wearing humble agricultural workers' gear. He looks like a gardener. But he probes her heart, doesn't he? He knows the answers to those questions. Why are you crying? Who are you looking for? Even better than she does, really. And we get a clue of the state of her mind when she says that she thinks she can pick up the body herself and carry it and go and deal with it. It's really a bit mental. She is in an absolute world of pain and grief. She cannot see what's going on. But Jesus stops her right there. Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. There really are few moments in the whole Bible that match this one. Jesus speaks her name. It may have sounded something like this.
Mariam.
One word changes everything for her, for us, for the whole world. That voice that she'd heard drive out 7 demons, that she'd listened to eagerly for years, who taught her about God and faith and life, the voice of her master and her friend, says her name, one word, the first one recorded being spoken by the risen Lord. It's so poignant.
Mariam.
It's so powerful. He's alive, and she is known, and she's loved. And her reply is also one word. And it also conveys so much. The word actually means my teacher, or my dear teacher, my master. And at once, she knows that everything that she'd been taught all those years and that she was trusting him for, they were true. They were true for her. They were true for the whole world. And unsurprisingly, she just wants to embrace him and hug him tight, or maybe fall at his feet and hold on. Wouldn't anyone do the same? But Jesus said to her, "Do not cling to me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." It's natural that she wants to hold on tight. But why does Jesus tell her to let go? Well, a number of weird reasons have been given, but actually Jesus gives the reason. He tells her he's leaving. This next season will be brief and will conclude with his ascension back to heaven. Mary, you've got to let go because I'm not staying. But this is key. His leaving is actually going to be a better thing. In John 14, he told them, "I won't leave you orphaned. I'm coming to you. Because I live, you'll also live. And on that day, you'll know that I'm in my Father and I am in you and you in me. And my Father will love them and will come to them and make our home with them," he says. And later on, he says, "I tell you the truth. It's to your advantage that I go away. If I don't go away, the advocate or the Spirit will not come to you. But if I go, I'll send him to you." The time for relating to Jesus in that physical way, being able to see him and hear him and touch him, to be close and share meals and walks together, that was coming to an end in a matter of weeks. But the closeness and the depth of relationship was not going to end. It's okay, Mary. I'm going to draw you and the brothers into this unity and fellowship with the Father and with me, because the age of the Spirit is going to begin soon. Well, if choosing her to be the first to see him alive was an honour, here comes another one. He's now actually going to send her with that important message to pass on to Peter and John and the others. Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord." And she told them the things that he had said to her. Why didn't Jesus go directly to these men himself? After all, They're the leaders and they were only there a few moments ago. I don't know. And John could easily have erased this bit of the story from his account. What value would the witness of a woman be in his trying to persuade people to faith? And it certainly takes the spotlight off him and the others. But he doesn't leave the story out. Far from it. I actually find the commentary that makes this account sort of about Jesus's condescension or about Mary's low status and unworthiness, I really think it does Mary a great disservice. Do you remember what distinguished Mary, Jesus's mother, when God called her for a unique role? The angel told her that she was favoured by God. And the song of praise that's recorded of her is that of a woman of great faith, humility, godliness, a real example to every believer. Likewise, this Mary. She's been rescued from misery by Jesus and has devoted her life, her money, her time, her heart to following him. How many disciples followed Jesus all the way to the cross, watched him buried and came back to the tomb before dawn? Exactly none. They scattered. So this is not just a lucky encounter or Jesus making a point about unimportant people before he moves on to the real business with the blokes. She's being honoured by being spoken to first, and then further honoured by being entrusted to bring this good news to the apostles. There was early church fathers, actually, some of them called her an apostle to the apostles. But John here actually uses an interesting word to describe her speaking role here. It's actually the word angelusa, and the root word is angel, which means messenger. It's the only place it's used. So angels were sent to speak about the resurrection, and now she, like them, is bearing a message directly from the Lord. To me, John actually seems quite self-effacing in his reporting of how that Easter morning unfolded. Mary's story is way cooler at this point. She's really quite like the woman in chapter 4 who ran back into town and announced, "Come and see a man who's told me everything I've ever done. Could he be the Messiah?" Yep, that's another female witness that John deliberately tells us about. And here is what I think is the high point. Her words, "I have seen the Lord." This is the news that changes everything. Over the next 40 days, many others are going to be able to say the same thing. And this witness actually becomes foundational news upon which the church is built. In Acts 13, we hear Paul preaching, and he says, they took Jesus down from the cross, they laid him in a tomb, God raised him from the dead, and for many days he was seen by those who had travelled with him from Galilee to Jerusalem. They are now his witnesses to our people. And surely Mary is one of those witnesses. I can imagine her friends saying, "Tell us the story again, Mary. It's such a great story." And she'd be going, "And then I saw and I didn't recognise him, and they were angels, and I didn't even see." It's such a wonderful story. They said my name. It's the best news ever. But do come back next time, and we're going to discover more people who saw Jesus alive and the difference that made. We'll see you then.